I also started saying very early on, I'm going to be the first female GM this group has had. I'm going to be the first one to break through that mold and get promoted. And having that goal and having it written down and having it as a guide made making decisions along the way easier.
Your written goals serve as your guiding light when things get difficult, says today's Ask an Expert. Hi, I'm Joshua Carlson, co-founder of Propelo Media, and today I sit down with Melisa Eichbauer. She's the general manager of Findlay Volkswagen outside of Las Vegas and was recently voted 40 under 40 by Automotive News, so she knows what she's talking about. Today she's going to share her insights on how they leverage community-based marketing, how it not only improves the morale of their staff, it helps the P&L, and it improves the general community at large. It's also going to talk about how they've adapted and pivoted with the customer experience when we can't be physically close together, leveraging technology and video and getting creative in general. And finally, we're going to talk about the importance of empathy, how we need to have empathy as a leader, not only with our peers and our teams, but within our family and communities. Now let's hear what Melisa has to say. Melisa, thank you so much for coming on our Ask an Expert.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, not as excited as I sure you were when you heard you'd won 40 under 40 by Automotive News last year. So I wanted to first off say congratulations, but I also wanted to just ask you, what are the personal attributes you think you have that helped you achieve this accomplishment?
Winning 40 under 40 was awesome. That was definitely on my list of things I wanted to achieve, and I was starting to run out of runway, so it was important. I think really it's just tenacity and some persistence and digging in and not giving up and being focused on finding a way rather than allowing the way to find you, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, I had a guest on who said, basically, if you don't choose a road, any road will choose you, but you may not like its destination. So you mentioned something when you talked about that, which was it was on your list. How long ago did you put it on the list as something that, hey, I'd like to go out and see if I can accomplish this?
Right around 34, 35, I had been promoted and realized that I had an opportunity to achieve that list. It's a great list of great people, and I'm very humbled to be a part of the alumni of that group. But it was about 5 years ago now that I really started working towards it.
Okay, and as far as the process, because I think people undervalue what it is that you're talking about, which is you put a goal list in front of you. How important has that been throughout your career to meet or reach these milestones?
It's kind of cliche, but that you've always heard a goal without a plan is just a wish, or a plan without a goal,
Sure.
vice versa. And it has driven my career. It has really been the guide, the North Star, to have these goals, to have these aspirations. When I joined my dealer group, I was very young. I thought, oh, sure, I'll go out and sell a car a day. That'll be easy, right? Who doesn't sell 30 cars a month? And there was a little bit of, naive and grandiose thoughts. But I also started saying very early on, I'm going to be the first female GM this group has had. I'm going to be the first one to break through that mold and get promoted. And having that goal and having it written down and having it as a guide made making decisions along the way easier when opportunity presented itself. And not always in the best light, but can I dig in a little harder? Can I give a little bit more? And will that push me towards that goal? So without having those targets, I think it's easy to get off track. And it's very easy to excuse yourself and pardon your humanity.
Yep.
And sometimes you kind of gotta push yourself through things.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that you did push yourself. And I do have to ask, automotive does feel more like a male-driven kind of, I guess, industry. So, A, what drove you to it? I guess pun intended. And B, how has that experience been different for you to be, a leader in your community?
I got here on accident. I decided to take a gap year while studying criminal justice um, in college, and I always joke and say I show my age when I say I saw an ad in the newspaper because some people don't know what that is anymore.
I remember those.
The classifieds, that's where you went to get a job. And I saw an ad and it said, no experience necessary, we'll train. And it was just so different than anything that I had ever even considered.
Right.
And thought, I'll give it a shot. It's something interesting. Let's have some fun. And really quickly learned that this industry has a lot to offer. Met some extremely great people, work for an amazing auto group who is very philanthropic and very committed to being good members of their community.
Right.
And just stuck with it. And before I knew it, I was 5 years in, 10 years in, and it had just become glue to me. Being a woman in this industry, it's less rare now than it was when I started, which is great. I think it's growing. We have room still. It is very much a boys' club at times.
Right.
But I have always been blessed with good leadership and leadership that was able to see past the traditional gender roles and provide me with opportunity to learn and grow based on the work ethic and actions that I put in. And so in that way, I will say I did have to sometimes work harder than the guys in the room.
Yeah.
And to overcome some kind of preconceived notions. I'm not a damsel that needs rescuing. I can hold my own, and I can, work just as hard and just as long and still achieve the same type of goals. But like I said, my leadership that I came up under was very supportive of, hey, we're not going to treat you any differently if you don't want to be.
Right.
And I really appreciated and respected that. And I think that's key for anyone, any gender, anything that makes us unique in our surroundings, that people don't treat you differently and they give you the opportunity to exceed and succeed.
Sure.
On the same playing field as everyone else.
Well, congrats for having great leadership, but obviously the tenacity that is within you, no doubt, is really what fueled the growth. I want to just shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about what things have been like for you going back at this point a number of months. What was the first indicator that you guys knew as an auto group, hey, things are really starting to change here? We've got a bumpy road ahead of us.
Yeah. It just kind of like anyone, we were spectators. Hey, what is this? What does it mean? I remember telling someone, we don't have to worry until they close the strip, because we're in a suburb of Las Vegas. And I'm like, as long as the strip is open, we're fine.
Right.
And then it was shortly after that they said, we're closing down the strip. And I was like, uh-oh. They're going to hold me to that. So, it was, and then we started watching very closely the actions from our governor's office, the actions from governor's offices of our neighboring states. When we first got word that non-essential businesses would be closing, that was a big red X for us. Well, what does that mean? Because that's not really a term any of us had
ever heard before.
Yeah. So
right.
What's essential? And looking at locations like Italy, well, what was essential was hospitals and grocery stores. So it was like, oh, okay, what does this mean? How are we going to approach this? We shortly learned after that that automotive repair was considered essential, but not necessarily automotive sales. Um, so that was really the biggest, the first hurdle that we came up against of, okay, well, we have at least half of our team. What does this mean? And how do we move forward?
And so let's talk about how you guys did move forward. I'd like to talk about it operationally with your team. And then I'd also just like to talk about it logistically as it pertains to inventory, because I know that that's been a bumpy ride.
Yeah, so the first thing we did is obviously shut down our showroom, our sales showroom, sent the sales employees home, and we are in a good position. At that time, we were in a good position, and we said, look, we're going to send you home. We're not laying you off. We're not furloughing you. We will pay you until we know at least more, but go home. Um, and we did pay them, and we maintained their benefits.
It's very
So
commendable.
it's important. People matter more than anything. And at that time, everything was so unknown and really just people's safety. Operationally, my next actions were, how do I keep the people that are here in this building safe?
Right.
I'm not a doctor. I could only rely on the news, which we've learned can go either way. And so had a huddle with management and said, okay, let's walk through this step by step. What does it look like? Really started hitting grocery stores as individuals, trying to find Lysol, Clorox wipes, bottles of bleach. And at this point, that was what everyone was doing. So we were legitimately driving around our city trying to secure products just to keep our team safe. We put in a process of wrapping the steering wheels and gear shifts with gloves that we had on hand, just making sure that the team was as safe as possible, encouraging them that if they felt ill to stay home. Ordinarily our industry is a play hurt kind of industry. I think that's true with all sales based and commission type production industries, I should say. But really started to change the narrative of, hey, we are all here together, and your families matter, you matter. And that's always been something that we have focused on, but there's nothing behind the curtain here. If you're sick, stay home, you'll get paid.
Right.
It's not worth it. We were fortunate, being one of the larger Volkswagen stores, to have a pretty decent inventory going into COVID.
Okay.
And with the sales showroom being shut down about the first 3 or 4 weeks of the non-essential shutdown, it gave us an opportunity to get some more cars in, to get a little bit of some footing. Then our governor said, hey, we're going to change it a little, and sales is now essential, because they took into consideration that some people's leases were coming up, some people's cars were beyond repair, they needed to be able to replace their mode of transportation. Especially here in Clark County, we don't have the best public transit system.
Okay.
And it gets hot.
Yeah.
And walking is not an option, or biking.
Sure.
So they said, you can open your sales department back up, skeleton crew, home deliveries, no cars in the showroom, no tables. It was very eerie. It was stanchioned off. It was no pun intended, it was a dark time. It was empty.
Right. Well, so let's talk about this customer experience some more. How have you guys looked to adapt during, periods of time where you are being authoritatively, dictated, right? You can and you can't do this. What have you learned that you might be keeping, or, of revising that customer experience moving forward into the future?
We have been talking a lot about pandemic productivity. and ways that we've become more efficient,
Mm-hmm.
and also noticing some ways that we had a lot of redundancies in our process, because we learned that customers now, they just want to get it done quick, minimize their exposure, minimize the time that it's a little less now than it was in the beginning, of course. I think we've all kind of gotten a little roughed up by it. And but we found that people just want things very, very easy, very quick, very clean in the sense of the paperwork and the experience, and safe, and they can feel confident that, hey, I did this quickly, I did it online, they brought it to my house, but I do still feel, safe, and they're trustworthy.
Sure. What's
Yeah.
it done from the actual like sales negotiation process? Because I think all of us watching this have been through some form of negotiations, whether it's on that side of the table or it's on this side of the table. What has this kind of hybrid experience done just to that exchange?
It definitely changed the process. The biggest piece for us that has gone away is test drives.
Mm.
Um, it used to be you got in the car with a salesperson, you'd go and I'd like to say my team does not do this, but a lot of people do, the how does it feel? That kind of
Warming up the,
cliche.
yeah.
Yeah, like getting those yes answers. You like it, right? Where are you going on vacation first? Those kind of old school things that went away. So you don't get to, as on our side, we put a lot of energy into making sure it's the right fit
Okay.
before we ask you to spend your money.
Yep.
And that went away. We didn't get to see the reaction. We don't get to see your response to how the vehicle will operate under your normal driving habits. We don't get to be there to answer those questions, and maybe some perceptions are made or some decisions are made that we're not privy to. So a little bit of it was, well, now we're asking people to spend money and we haven't been able to 100% confirm that it's the right fit.
Right.
And then in some situations, there was no test drive at all. It became very much, wherein all sales is generally a value proposition, it became all numbers. It became very much, is this going to fit now? Will it potentially fit in the future? We don't know what the future looks like. So it became more challenging, and a greater opportunity for us to get to know more about our customers and their long-term goals rather than, does this fit right now?
Okay. And so I like this and I like the adaptation because I do think finding a fit is essential in really good long-term sales, right? It's one thing to be able to close this deal today and, I can walk away and I feel good because I got my sale, but is it really truly a good fit? So how have you guys adapted in an online, a non-person to person environment to really try to feel that out? Whether it's through surveys or a conversation on the phone, how are you guys adapting to really try to stay as close to that fit zone as possible?
A lot of adaptations, I should say, sending more content online, doing extended test drives, dropping cars off at homes or offices, doing digital retailing. So, hey, yeah, from the outside, this car looks like it's a great fit. It's right for me. It's got what I want. And normally we would say, okay, in Nevada is a no right of rescission state. So you buy the car, that's it. It's yours. Well, we made some changes and now it's, hey, you've got a 5-day period that we will honor. If, we have some mileage limitations, we don't want people just taking the cars out and, for respect of the future owner, if you decide not to maintain that vehicle. And I think that gave a little bit of a peace of mind, because you could have the car at home, you could have it in your driveway, your garage, your life. And you really got to see, does it fit?
Yeah.
We've done other things like decked out the cars and took a lot of photos, put in baby seats and filled up the trunks and done things that to kind of give a perception of what it looks like using it in real life.
Yeah.
And providing that, pushing that out to everyone rather than just someone who might ask when they come in.
Okay. And what's the feedback you've been getting from customers as you guys have been, what it sounds like, really stepping up and providing an enhanced, automotive purchasing experience?
Our retail sales have been up,
Okay.
and that is great. At one point it was, oh golly, are we going to run out of cars? And our manufacturer has been exceptional. Volkswagen of America and their leadership, I can't say enough about how well they have managed the inventory and supply chain in this period, because we never did run out of cars. So that was good. But we started selling more cars, year over year, more cars, year over year, more cars. We started getting a lot of feedback that, wow, that was really easy. That was fun. That was the best experience I've had buying a car. And it was so cool because in a time right now when everything else is so dark and not a lot to look forward to, we were kind of inserting this little like burst of happiness, and wow, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I'm really excited about my new car. And so it's been really great feedback.
Okay. Well, kudos to you guys. You mentioned something earlier, and I want to revisit it. Giving back to the community, being philanthropic. It's something that your dealer group is already proactive and very vested in, which is amazing, and it's fantastic. I wish more businesses did that. What has it been from a community perspective to work for an organization that is so community centric and wants to give back?
It means everything, honestly. The Finley family, they're known to say, Las Vegas has done a lot for us. We want to do a lot for Las Vegas. And I think when you consider businesses, and in our town we're a big business, but it is family owned, and how engaged you can be on a personal level, and the impact you can make in people's lives, it goes beyond selling cars. It goes beyond providing employment opportunities and adding to the local economy. It's showing our team that there's an opportunity beyond those things to be a good steward of your community. And that's what really brings everyone up. Rising tides raise all ships. And so it's, for me especially, after becoming the general manager here, it's great to work in that group that focuses on philanthropy, because that's really important to me. And I don't have to ask permission. And it's not frowned upon to do big community-oriented events. And I was really proud of my team last year. We're in Henderson, which is a suburb of Las Vegas, but we won a small business award for outstanding community service.
Congrats.
Yeah, it was, that's a really proud moment for me, because of what, this whole city, they're saying, hey, what Finley Volkswagen is doing is helping people. And you can have a mission, you can have a vision, but if you don't have a purpose, you're just existing. Right. So it's really cool. It's really special. And from a human capital side point, it gets people bought in, and they're not just working to sell a car. They're working for an organization that's going to make a difference. And a widget's a widget, but we want to make people feel good.
Yeah. Well, I like you sharing that, because I do think, it's when you've got a good, healthy P&L, and when you can give back in this capacity, I like how you say it motivates the team and really instills something inside of them that makes a difference. And it's not just a community difference, it's an individual difference as well. That feeling where if we can lift our team up, whether it's, through philanthropy or other, ways that we can do something that's not P&L related, right? It's really about community. I'd like to shift and talk about marketing. So I'd like to talk about what you guys were doing, let's say a year ago. Kind of what is your overall high-arching marketing strategy? Starting first with, what do you guys do, or what did you do? And we'll get to what you guys are doing today.
So I tend to stay away from traditional marketing. You very rarely will see this dealership on TV. Very rarely do we run, traditional radio commercial. Even though the newspaper got me my job, I'm not in the newspaper. But what we do instead is we focus a lot of our efforts on campaigns that we call sweat equity campaigns. Yeah. And it goes back to serving the community and getting to know people. So we do a lot of events, and ordinarily we tie those events on a monthly basis to a sweat equity partner that we would choose, and we would raise awareness for the dealership, but I also raise funds or products for a nonprofit, a local nonprofit that serves our city, and get people to meet other people. Sure. And so the bulk of our advertising and our marketing budgets go into those kind of events.
Okay.
Definitely different now, because
I was going to say, I imagine there's been a little bit of disruption in this marketing strategy.
Yes. Certainly has been a disruption. So we've had to get creative. Okay. And find new ways, but we have been successful with that. We've done, most recently, we did a drive-in movie night for families, a way for them to get out and do something safe, social distanced. We provided dinner, just pre-packaged, like popcorn and soda and hot dogs, and played a movie. And we encouraged the sale of raffle tickets and supported a local nonprofit called Miracle Flights. Okay. So we also did a online poker tournament, Very Vegas. We sponsored that at HyperX, which is an esports arena on the Las Vegas Strip. Okay. And we sponsored that, again, in support of Miracle Flights. If you're not familiar with them, they are a nonprofit that provides air transportation to very ill children who cannot get medical care in their home cities. Okay. And so they provide air transportation for the child and their family. Sure. So really getting creative, finding ways to do virtual car shows and encourage the community to show us their cars and do all kinds of fun stuff without having people actually here.
Yeah, and that's good. I was going to ask, how are you leveraging video? I'm in Portland, Oregon. You're in Henderson, Nevada. So, we're about 1,000 miles apart. How are you using video, either in real time, like what we're doing right now, or in, some sort of static environment? Maybe it's a virtual, test drive of the vehicle.
Yeah, virtual test drives for sure. We're so fortunate to have the technology we do. Our sales meetings went to Zoom, and the first couple times it was very interesting and challenging for the team to kind of figure out, I'm muted, or and then most recently it was, oh my gosh, look, there's new reactions. So it's like I've kind of seen everybody grow on Zoom. And, like I had mentioned, doing the virtual events and getting to engage with people and talk to them and see them. And I think there's a little bit of authenticity that comes to it, because there's some vulnerability to being in your home or in your office, or sometimes in your car having a meeting. Yep. Or I'm trying to figure this out just the same as you, and trying to show a customer who may also be new to Zoom or new to, Google Meet, or some people are new to FaceTime. Sure. And so it's cool that we're kind of making these bonds through this shared vulnerability.
Right. And I'm curious, as it pertains, you mentioned service was a necessity early on, and sales wasn't, and then there was the shift. How much of a strategy is there from the service side of the house that's working with existing customers, or working with at least, people that are bringing their vehicle in? They may not have been your original customer, but to the front of the house, to the sales side, is there a strategy you guys have, or is it just kind of more word of mouth if the service side happens to hear something, or is there some sort of system in place?
There's definitely a system in place,
Okay.
and again, it comes from can we provide value to the customer?
Right.
Early on especially during the pandemic time, Volkswagen made an amazing offer to new customers, well, up to all customers, um, that you could have 0% interest and 180 days until your first payment. So that was our first strategy of, hey, make sure anyone that comes in for service
Yeah.
knows that this is available to them.
Right.
It was very quickly after that I got my first phone call, literally from a couple who works in the service industry on the strip, and said, you saved us,
Right.
because we don't have to make a payment now for 6 months, and we're not going to lose our car, because they had just been furloughed. They didn't know what was going to happen. And that's the thing that has to drive you. You have to have a purpose behind your process. So the process is, hey, is this going to work for the customer? Is this going to improve their situation? And so we have a tool that provides us with that information in real time. Okay. It'll say, hey, this customer is currently out of warranty. They have equity in their vehicle. They could be well served by looking at a new car. And so you get to present it in that way. Sure. Rather than, very cliche of, we want to buy your trade. We, like, hey, this might help you. And if not, that's okay too. Right. We just want to make sure that you're an informed part of our family, and that we're sharing with you this opportunity right now.
Okay. And how much of these, well, I love the story that you shared, and those are just fantastic. How much of these do you guys leverage on social media? If you're non-traditional and you're doing so much community stuff, how important is it for you guys to make sure that you're sharing that, utilizing social media?
Social media is a big part of our campaign strategies. Every event, every opportunity that, whether it's a financial opportunity, an inventory opportunity, we do share that. We do push it out on, all of our social channels. We make sure that's not the only thing we push. Sure. We want people to see us as people, and they get that opportunity, and then they're more likely to see, oh, hey, yeah, this is real, this is authentic, this is really them trying to show me a way that I can do well. So over the last 6 months, we have been communicating over social media a lot more, and I think more people are on their phones, but we definitely are seeing more of a response, more of a reaction, and we have a digital marketing partner that we work with that really helps us provide good content that is not clunky or cumbersome. It's, hey, if you're truly interested in this is how you take advantage. And I think that's important too.
Okay. Was there anything else that we haven't talked about today that you think is either important from what you're seeing as the GM, or just what you're just seeing in the automotive space?
I think the only thing that comes to mind is I've had many lessons in empathy over the last 6 months. And I consider myself a very empathetic person, but having those opportunities with my team, with my customers, with my family, to expand their viewpoint, expand the mindset that maybe we have, and even myself, finding myself challenged sometimes that, don't put people in this box. They might be afraid, they might be uncertain. And if they're coming to you for help, take that very seriously. And really put a lot of thought behind the words and the actions and how you're showing up to people, because people are looking for leadership.
Right.
Um, and if you're blessed with the opportunity to provide that, it's not a responsibility that should be taken lightly. And empathy goes a long, long way in making your team feel valued, your customers feel safe and appreciated. And when I say team, I mean my employees and their families.
Right.
It doesn't end at the front door here.
Well, I think I can speak comfortably in saying we need more Melisas in the world, because I think that level of empathy, it's certainly incredibly important in these challenging times that we're in right now. But I also just think it's the right foot forward in every situation, because we would be better people, we would be better organizations if we were focused on serving, and the sales will come behind that. So thank you so much for being a leader and stepping up from that standpoint.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you. Hopefully.
It's all thanks to you. So appreciate having you on. I'd love to have you back in a few months, maybe once we've hit 2021. I think hopefully that's going to be sooner than later. But no, this has been great. I really appreciate you sharing everything, and genuinely love to have you back.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Be safe.